Yo guys, welcome to the video. This is Josh or Milky, and today I want to take the opportunity to talk about how the farming meta has evolved so far in the Necropolis League. Obviously, I made this video at the start of the league where I went over, some atlas trees that you could do, but now the dust has settled a little bit and we know a bit more about how the Scarabs drop, what's rarer, what's not. So we'll start off with the big one. Obviously, Grim released this video and a lot of people have been doing this. I've seen Rutu doing it, tons of streamers doing this, where you're stacking the Rogue Exile Allflame into strong boxes and triggering it multiple times whilst using a combination of Scarabs to generate a ton of uniques, Scarabs, and fractured items. This is an incredibly strong farming strat, the best one in the game that I've seen, and in a lot of respects it self-sustains. You are going to make tons of divines. The maps are quite long, so they don't need a ton of materials as they're making so much per map. They're not running a ton of maps, but what they do need and what other players can farm for these people are, of course, the Allflames. The Allflames is something that they're not going to sustain most of the time. They're obviously going to get some, but you're definitely not going to sustain them. So what I've been doing is farming, obviously, the corpse rushing stuff. I made a video about this the other day where we're doing corpse rushing, and the good thing about corpse rushing is the way that the game actually generates more corpses and more Allflames. They're together. So this mod right here that says 80% increased chance to find corpses and Allflames, this is the mod that I've been farming. So essentially I would want this to be as high as possible on any of them. So with this strategy, you generate a lot of Allflames, and you can see just from a couple of days farming, you can see my Allflame tab here. These are all pretty good ones. If I type in Syndicate, yeah, I mean, look at that. These go for like 50c each plus in bulk. And then we have the Rogue Exile one that goes for like a Divine in bulk. And this is just from a couple of days farming. That's just Allflames alone. And there are even more in my Necropolis lockers. Now, one thing you should definitely be aware of if you are farming these Allflames is just how much they sell for in bulk. So I can take an example here. If I go to this Synthetic Fury Allflame and I price check it, you'll see right here. The amount, it says 5c, 3c, 4c. This is a bit of a con, because if you are a user of bulk selling tools, whether it's TFT, Wealthy Exile, any of that, you'll see that these go for a lot more. These Synthetic Fury ones can go 30, 40c in bulk, and that goes across the board. For example, I sold a lot of tattoo ones today. You'll see that I have no tattoo Allflames. Well, I have a couple, and these say as well 3, 4, maybe even 5c. These sell for 20c in bulk. Sorry, the price checking tool's been a bit slow. There you go. 1, 2, 3c. These sell for 20c in bulk. So remember, use bulk selling tools in order to move your things. This goes for, corpses as well. One update to the corpse thing I would say is you definitely want to refine what you're picking up. Originally, we thought this was going to be, they're going to be easy to sell and all that. And I tried to make it clear in the video where I didn't include a lot of the corpses in the price breakdown. Not all of them are. So being very diligent about which ones you pick up, using the spreadsheet that I've made to see which ones are more valuable is definitely going to help you. Obviously, it's a lot more to memorize when you're running the maps, and I know it's a lot to expect. But if you do want to run this strat, you don't have to worry too much about the corpses. Even if you're just picking up the additional crafts. Let's see if I have any just to show an example. So like the additional craft, these go for like a divine and a half each. You can see at the top there, you can just pick these up, and then like the grave effects, the grave rows, and you're going to sell them easily in bulk. You don't have to pick up every single one. Definitely a lot to be said about trying to farm the materials that these people doing the best strategy by a mile are doing. Now, the other thing that these people need that you can provide are Scarabs. And there are multiple ways to make Scarabs. Obviously, one big one that I've been advocating, at least on my sheet, is the Harbinger farm. You can definitely farm a ton of Scarabs by doing Harbinger and combining it with Beyond Delirium. This is because these two mechanics summon a ton of rares, and there is a point on the tree that allows you to have more chance to drop a Scarab based on how many modifiers a rares has. Here it is. It's called Amplified Artifact. So this tree here adds a ton of rares to the map, and you're going to end up dropping a lot of Scarabs. Also, the Harbinger loot is absolutely great. You're going to get Fracturing Shards. They are on the come down because a lot of people are farming Harbinger, but this is a great way to do it. You can also combine this strategy or this kind of concept with things like Blight. Blight is another great user of this, as it summons a ton of rares from the pump very quickly if you're using the immune response point down here. So you're going to spawn a ton of rares, and as a result, because of amplified artifacts, you're going to drop a ton of Scarabs. Now, that's not the only thing Blight's got going for it. Blight's one of the only things that its loot team seems to be trending up. So Blight seems to be something decent to farm right now. Obviously, the economy is inflating a little bit, but Blight seems to be relatively untouched, and that's because you can't really get oils from many other sources. You either farm Blight, or it's not really that easy to get them. There are some other mechanics that we'll touch on, like Expedition, Legion, and Ultimatum. Their rewards, or at least their rewards outside of the currency you drop from them, can be obtained from Allflames, so they get diluted a little bit and the rewards from the mechanic itself becomes a little less valuable. Blight doesn't have that problem, so Blight's a good one to farm right now, or Harbinger if you're looking for Scarabs. Now, if rares aren't your cup of tea, then Palsteron has made a great rogue exile farming strategy. Instead of relying on amplified artifacts in order to carry your Scarab drops, it actually uses the significant troves. This is the same thing that the rogue exile farmers are using in their strongbox maps, because it gives unique monsters a huge chance to drop an additional Scarab. So that's why that's being used. In basically, the premise is you want to get as many rogue exiles in your map. You can give them tons of drop quantity from the ghosts, and at that point you're going to be printing Scarabs as fast as you can kill rogue exiles. The rogue exile Scarabs are very good. The gigantification basically turns your rogue exile into a little kinder egg that summons more, so you get a ton of Scarabs per map. Now, this is quite a rippy strategy. Rogue exiles are notoriously annoying, but if you have a strong build that's relatively tanky, Palsteron strat could definitely be one in order to print Scarabs, of course, to sell to other players. That's the materials that other people need. It's all feeding into each other, right? And then another one that kind of stands on its own. You can't really print the currency from this mechanic any other way, not in any meaningful way, at least compared to the strategy, very much like Blight, and that is Essence. So we have a video right here. I will link all these videos down below that I'm referencing, and you can basically use the calcification Scarab, which turns all the rares in your map into essences. You can also make the essences be a higher tier, and you're just going to pull out tons and tons of deafening essences every single map. Now, this has, of course, reduced the cost of essences, but you get that many and people need so many, they're very easy to shift in bulk. So Essence, very much still a good farm in and of itself, as its rewards aren't really diluted by anything that the new Allflames or the League mechanic can offer. So Essence, another great one if you've got a good build capable of doing it. Now, we're not going to go too much into the outside map stuff, but I will touch on Harvest as well. I made a video on Harvest the other day, and Life Force has since really plummeted in price, and I think that's because of the ability to produce it. Now, the Scarab at the time when I made that video was just under a divine. It's now half a divine, so this Scarab has gone down, and in order to balance that with the amount of life force you're able to produce, one of the things has to happen, right? Either the Scarab has to go up and the life force can stay low, or the Scarab stays where it is or goes down and the life force gets even cheaper. So it seems like the life force has gotten cheaper, which makes Harvest, unfortunately, a lot worse. Now, farming it with the Horned Scarab of Awakening is still great. It's a lot of fun. But Harvest seems to be in a bit of a tough spot right now. Normally it turns around and Harvest is good in the later stages of the league. But as of right now, I would not find myself farming Harvest if I was trying to make the most amount of currency at least. Then we obviously have a sorry state of affairs for what was once the GOAT of currency making, Legion. The nerfs hit it quite hard. It's as simple as that. Obviously 5-ways got nerfed, so emblems are less desirable, less people running 5-ways. Also, the nerfs to stack decks and all that kind of stuff really compounded to make Legion a bit of a shadow of its former self, unfortunately. Despite getting some really cool Scarabs that make it a lot of fun to farm, it's just not what it once was. So Legion and Expedition in a lot of ways suffer the same. Expedition, obviously carried by stacked decks, you're not getting as many of those. You are still going to get your 2-gen rewards and all that, but the Allflames kind of cannibalize it. So Allflames do give you the opportunity to produce Expedition currency probably faster if you're stacking this and doing any kind of min-maxing around the way that Allflames work. You're going to be able to produce so many exotic coins and also the artifacts for yourself. So this puts Expedition also in a bad spot. Now, one thing I want to say at this point is just because I've maybe bashed on the mechanic you're farming right now, do not take that like I'm not doing anything personally. You can farm whatever you want. You're not going to lose money doing any of these farms. You're going to be absolutely fine. I'm not trying to shit on anyone's strat. I just want to give kind of a rundown of what's going on and kind of what's propping each other up and what's the best right now. And it is undoubtedly the Rogue Exile farm for uniques and fractured items and Scarabs, and it's pulling some other stuff up with it. You can see with like the Corpse rushing to farm the Allflames and the Scarab farms in order to give them the Scarabs they need in order to run the content they want to run. So just as a little TLDR from the video, if you wanted to skip forward to this point, these are the 6 farms that I've got at the top right now, at least in terms of mapping. This is not to say that any strategy not included on this very small list isn't good. It's just that these are the ones that stand out to me as ones you can farm. The only one I'd say that's maybe borderline is Essence, because the Essences seem to be at a pretty unstable price. But if you've got a build that can farm a lot, then 50 Essences worth 5C a pop every map is a good amount of Essences, right? 250C worth of Essences in a map that's not going to take you too long if your build is tailor-made for it. But yeah, that's my take on PoE at the moment in terms of farming. I'm going to be doing a few more strategies this league before I 07 and I have to go do other things. But yeah, just a quick video, more of a rambly one. If you stayed this long, I appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with me this league. There'll be more to come.